3 months before my wedding, my mother called me into the living room. My brother Marcus sat there with his laptop, showing them his latest business pitch deck. Again, this would be his fourth startup. The previous 3 had burned through over $200,000 of my parents' money. I should have known what was coming. Where are you watching from today? My name is Elena, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a pediatric ICU nurse in San Francisco, pulling 12-hour shifts to save children's lives. My brother Marcus is 32 and has never held a real job. Instead, he calls himself a serial entrepreneur. Our parents call him a visionary. I call him what he is, a professional failure with an expensive hobby. For the past 18 months, I'd been planning my wedding to James. We met 3 years ago when he came into the hospital after his nephew had an accident. James is an architect, quiet and thoughtful, the kind of man who listens more than he talks. We fell in love slowly, then all at once. My parents seemed happy about the engagement. My mother cried when James asked for their blessing in Spanish, his pronunciation careful and respectful. My father shook his hand and said, "Finally, someone worthy of his daughter." For once, I thought I was the favorite child. I was wrong. That afternoon in the living room, my mother twisted her hands together. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. Marcus, though? Marcus looked right at me with that same smirk he'd worn since we were kids. "Elena, your father and I have been talking," my mother started. "Marcus has an incredible opportunity. This new company, it's different from the others. The technology, the market timing, everything is perfect. But he needs capital." I already knew where this was going. My stomach dropped. "We've been helping pay for your wedding," my father continued. "The venue deposit, the catering down payment, the flowers. It's been expensive." $30,000, I said quietly. "You've contributed $30,000. James and I have paid for everything else ourselves. The dress, the photographer, the band, the honeymoon. We've been saving for 2 years." "Yes, well," my mother interrupted. "Marcus needs investors. He needs to show he has family backing to attract outside capital. If we pull together now, as a family, this could be the one that finally takes off." "How much?" I asked, though I didn't want to know. "80,000, Marcus said, not even having the decency to look apologetic. "Maybe 100 to be safe. Think of it as an investment, not just a gift. When the company goes public, you'll get returns." I laughed. I actually laughed. "Returns? Marcus, your last company didn't even launch a product. The one before that got sued by your co-founder. And the first one? You spent $40,000 on an office space you didn't need and threw launch parties you couldn't afford." "This is different," he snapped. "You've always been jealous that I think bigger than you, that I'm willing to take risks while you play it safe with your little nursing job." My little nursing job. The one where I held dying children's hands and told parents their babies would be okay, even when I wasn't sure. The one where I worked every holiday so families could be together. The one that earned me every penny I'd saved. "The point is," my father said firmly, "we're going to redirect the wedding funds to Marcus. You and James make good money. You're both educated, stable. You can afford to pay for your own wedding. Marcus needs this opportunity. He's family." "So am I said. "I'm your daughter, this is my wedding." "You'll have other weddings if this one doesn't work out," my mother said, as if marriage was something disposable. "Marcus only has one shot at this company." I looked at the 3 of them, my brother's entitled smirk, my father's stern expression, my mother's pleading eyes. They'd already decided. This conversation was a formality. "Fine," I said. "Take the money." I stood up, my hands shaking. "We knew you'd understand," my mother said, relief flooding her voice. "You've always been so reasonable, so practical." On the drive home, I called James. He was at his parents' house in Napa Valley, where he went most weekends to help his father with some project or another. I told him what happened, my voice breaking halfway through. "Come up here," he said immediately. "Stay the weekend. We need to talk." The drive to Napa took 2 hours. I spent most of it crying, then being angry at myself for crying. I'd always known Marcus was the favorite. Our cousin Maria had warned me years ago. "In traditional families, the son is everything," she'd said. "The daughter is just the practice round." James met me in the driveway of what I'd always assumed was his parents' weekend house. It was beautiful, a California craftsman-style home with vine-covered trellises and a wraparound porch. I'd been there a dozen times for family dinners. He held me while I cried, then led me inside. His parents, Richard and Catherine, were waiting in the kitchen with tea and homemade shortbread cookies. Catherine hugged me tight. "James told us what happened," she said. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. That's unconscionable." I wiped my eyes. "It's fine. We'll just have a smaller wedding, maybe the courthouse and dinner after. It'll be more intimate anyway. Richard and Catherine exchanged a look. James took my hand. Elena, James said slowly, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago, but I didn't want it to matter. I didn't want you to think it defined us. What? My heart started racing. Was he sick? In debt? What could be worse than my family's betrayal? Catherine stood up. Come with me, dear. I want to show you something. She led me through the kitchen, out the back door, and onto the porch. The view was stunning. Rolling hills covered in grapevines stretching as far as I could see. The late afternoon sun turned everything golden. How much of this is your view? I asked. All of it, Richard said quietly, joining us. It's all ours. The house, the vineyards, the winery, the tasting room, the event barn. 700 acres. We're Whitmore Estate wines. I stared at him. I'd heard of Whitmore Estate. Everyone in California had. They were one of the most prestigious wineries in Napa Valley, known for their Cabernet Sauvignon that sold for $300 a bottle. Their wine was served at state dinners. Celebrities got married at their estate. But James worked as an architect. He drove a normal car. He lived in a normal apartment in the city. He never acted like, I didn't tell you because I wanted you to know me first, James said, his hand on my shoulder. Not my family's business. Not the money, just me. I've seen what happens when people find out about the winery. They change. They want something from you. But you never did. You loved me when you thought I was just some guy who designed buildings. I turned to look at him. You are just some guy who designs buildings. He smiled. That soft smile I fell in love with. Yeah. But I'm also a guy whose family owns one of the most beautiful private estates in California. And Elena, my love, I would be honored if you'd let us host your wedding here. I couldn't speak. Catherine touched my arm gently. We have an event coordinator on staff, she said. She's booked out 2 years in advance normally, but for family, she'll make time. We have relationships with the best caterers, florists, and photographers in the valley. The estate can accommodate up to 300 guests, but we can also make it intimate for 50 if that's what you want. And sweetheart, there would be no cost. This is our wedding gift to you. But, I started, my mind reeling. The deposits. The venue we'd booked in San Francisco. Our parents have already paid. We'll handle it, Richard said firmly. We'll contact your vendors, explain the situation, get the deposits refunded or transferred. Whatever money your parents contributed will be returned to them. You don't owe them anything. I started crying again, but this time from relief, from disbelief, from the sudden understanding that I'd fallen in love with someone whose family valued me more than my own did. There's one condition, James said, tilting my chin up to look at him. You have to promise me you'll have exactly the wedding you want. Not smaller, not simpler, not apologetic. I want you to have everything you've dreamed of. I want you to feel like a queen, because that's what you are to me. I spent that weekend at the estate. Catherine called their event coordinator, a woman named Simone who arrived with an iPad and 3 massive binders full of photos from previous weddings. Within 2 hours, we'd sketched out a completely new plan. The ceremony would be in the estate's private garden, a 2-acre space with a natural stone archway covered in wisteria. The reception would be in their newly renovated event barn, a space with exposed beams, bistro lights, and massive windows overlooking the vineyards. Simone showed me photos from a wedding they'd hosted last month. It looked like something from a magazine. For flowers, she has the vendor who did the governor's daughter's wedding on speed dial, Catherine said. For catering, we'll use Thomas Keller's people. For music, there's a jazz quartet from the San Francisco Symphony who play private events. But the photography, I said, we already hired someone. He's a friend from nursing school who's building his portfolio. Then we'll fly him up here and put him up in the guest house, Richard said simply. Your friends are our friends now, Elena. That night, I video called my best friend, Rachel. I told her everything. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Are you kidding me? She shouted. James is a Whitmore? The Whitmores? Elena, their wine is in the White House cellar. Oprah did a show at their vineyard. This is insane. I know, I whispered. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up. What are you going to tell your family? Nothing yet, I said. Let them think I'm having a courthouse wedding. Let them think they ruined my day. Petty, I love it. Over the next 2 months, I planned a wedding that most people couldn't even dream of. Simone handled the logistics with the efficiency of a military general. Every week, I'd drive up to Napa after my shifts to taste menu options, review flower arrangements, and approve design elements. James's family treated me like I'd always belonged with them. Richard taught me about wine pairing. Catherine showed me the family photo albums, pointing out where James had been a chubby toddler running through the vines. His younger sister, Emma, flew in from New York where she was in law school, just to help me pick out jewelry for the big day. You know what the best part is? Emma said one afternoon while we were shopping in San Francisco. You actually love him. Not the money, not the estate, not the name. Just him. He was so afraid he'd never find that. Meanwhile, my family had stopped calling. My mother texted once to ask if I was still planning to get married, since we'd obviously canceled the real wedding. I replied with a single word. Yes. Marcus posted constantly on social media about his new company. Grand opening of our office space, one post read, with a photo of him standing in front of a rented WeWork. Signed our first major client, another claimed, though I knew from our cousin that the client was our uncle's construction company. I didn't post anything about my wedding plans. I kept my engagement ring on but otherwise stayed silent. Let them think what they wanted. 2 weeks before the wedding, I finally told my family the date and location. I texted my mother. Wedding is June 15th at Whitmore Estate Wines in Napa Valley. Ceremony at 4 p.m. You're invited if you want to come. My phone rang within 30 seconds. Whitmore Estate? My mother said. Elena, that's one of the most expensive venues in California. How can you possibly afford that? We're not paying for it, I said calmly. James's family owns it. There was a long silence. Owns it? His family owns Whitmore Estate? Yes. Another silence. And you didn't think to mention this? How long have you known? Long enough. Will you be attending? Of course we'll attend, she said quickly. Elena, this is incredible. Does Marcus know? He's tried to get investors interested in doing events at Whitmore. The connections you'll have now, the opportunities. There it was. Not congratulations. Not I'm sorry we doubted you. Just calculations about how they could benefit. I'll send you the invitation, I said and hung up. The invitation arrived at their house 3 days later. Simone had designed something elegant. Cream cardstock with gold embossed lettering and a small watercolor illustration of the estate. The envelope was lined with silk paper. It probably cost more than most people's invitations for their entire guest list. My mother called again. Elena, the invitation says adults only. Marcus wants to bring his new girlfriend and her daughter. The invitation is accurate, I said. Adults only. Marcus can bring his girlfriend if they're serious, but her child stays home. But she's only 6. Marcus says they might get engaged soon. Then he can bring her to his own wedding. Mine is adults only. This went back and forth for days. They wanted to bring relatives I'd never met. They wanted to know if there was a registry so people could send gifts. They wanted to know about the menu because my aunt was a vegetarian. My uncle couldn't eat gluten. And my cousin had some exotic allergy to something I'd never heard of. Simone handled it all with polite firmness. All dietary restrictions can be accommodated with advance notice. No children under 18. No +1s unless specifically indicated on the invitation. Standard wedding etiquette, really, but my family acted like I was being unreasonable. Marcus called me directly, something he rarely did. So you landed a rich guy, he said. Good for you. Look, I'm bringing some business associates to the wedding. Investors. Is there a way we could get a tour of the winery? Maybe meet James's father? I have a pitch that would be perfect for their distribution network. No, I said flatly. Come on, Elena. Family helps family, right? That's what Mom and Dad always say. Is that what you told yourself when they took my wedding money for your company? That was different. This is business. This is networking. You're not going to use your connections to help your own brother? We're not having this conversation, Marcus. You're invited to watch me get married. That's it. He hung up on me. The week of the wedding, I took off work. James and I stayed at the estate to handle last-minute details and welcome his extended family who were flying in from across the country. His grandmother arrived from Boston, a tiny, elegant woman in her 90s who hugged me and said, I've waited 30 years for James to find someone worthy of him. You're exactly what this family needed. His college roommate flew in from Tokyo. His former boss came up from Los Angeles. His sister's fiancé arrived from London. These people came from around the world to celebrate us. While my own family sent a group text asking if they could arrive early to the rehearsal dinner to take photos at the estate. The rehearsal dinner was held at the estate's private tasting room, an intimate space with a long wooden table and views of the sunset over the vines. Richard opened bottles of wine from the year James was born, the year I was born, and the year we met. He gave a toast about love and family and choosing your people. My family arrived late, during dessert. They didn't apologize, just grabbed seats at the end of the table. Marcus immediately started talking to James's cousin about investment opportunities. My mother asked Catherine pointed questions about the estate's value and their export business. My father said almost nothing, just looked around the room with barely concealed awe. After dinner, while people were mingling, my mother pulled me aside. "Elena, you never told us James came from this kind of family. If we'd known, we never would have." She paused. "We would have handled things differently." "You mean you wouldn't have stolen my wedding money to give to Marcus?" She flinched. "That's not fair. We didn't steal anything. We made a family decision to invest in your brother's future." "And what about my future? What about the wedding I'd been planning for 18 months? "But you're fine," she said, gesturing around. "Look at all of this. You don't need our money. You're marrying into wealth. Marcus needed that support more than you did." "I see," I said quietly. "So because James's family has money, I'm less deserving of your support. Because I'm successful, I don't need my own family anymore." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Mom?" She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "I just think you could be more generous with your brother. He's family. Now that you have access to resources, you could help him. Introduce him to investors. Maybe James's father could mentor him." "No." "Just like that? No?" She looked genuinely shocked. "Just like that. You chose him over me. You chose his fourth business failure over my wedding. You made it clear where I rank in this family. So no, I'm not giving him anything. Not connections, not money, not advice. He made his bed. Tell him to lie in it." My mother's face hardened. "You've changed, Elena. This money has made you cold." "No," I said. "I've just finally seen things clearly." The next morning was my wedding day. I woke up in the estate's main house, in a bedroom bigger than my entire apartment. Sunlight streamed through the windows. I could hear birds singing in the garden. Catherine knocked softly and came in with coffee and fresh pastries. Emma followed with a mimosa. Rachel arrived with my hair and makeup team. For the next 4 hours, I was pampered, celebrated, and loved by the family I'd chosen and the family that had chosen me. My dress was custom, designed by a local artist who specialized in modern takes on classic silhouettes. It was simple, elegant, with a low back and a train that moved like water. Catherine fastened her own wedding pearls around my neck. Emma adjusted my veil. Rachel held my hands and said, "You look like you're about to marry a prince." "Better," I said. "I'm about to marry someone who sees me as an equal." Downstairs, Richard waited to walk me down the aisle. My father had assumed he'd have that honor, but I'd asked Richard instead. When I told my father, he'd looked hurt but didn't argue. He knew why. Richard offered his arm. "You ready?" I took a deep breath. "I'm ready." The ceremony was perfect. The garden was filled with white roses and peonies. String quartet played as I walked down an aisle lined with candles and glass hurricanes. James waited at the altar under the wisteria arch, and when he saw me, he started crying. We wrote our own vows. Mine talked about finding home in another person. His talked about never having to hide who you are with the right partner. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden, except my brother's. He spent the ceremony on his phone. The reception in the event barn was magical. Bistro lights hung from the rafters. Long tables were decorated with low arrangements of garden roses and eucalyptus. The caterer served herb-roasted chicken, grilled salmon with lemon caper butter, and filet mignon with truffle demi-glace. The wine, of course, was from the estate's private reserve. During dinner, my mother kept trying to pull me aside to introduce me to distant relatives I'd never met. Marcus tried 3 times to get James alone to talk business. I intercepted each time and had Emma or Rachel run interference. Finally, Marcus cornered me by the bar during the toasts. "You're being selfish," he hissed. "I came all the way up here. The least you could do is make some introductions. Do you know how much an investment from the Whitmores could change my life? Did you know how much having my family at my wedding could have changed mine?" I said quietly. "But you didn't care about that, did you? You only care now because you think I have something you can use. That's not fair. Isn't it? You've never once asked me about my work, never congratulated me on a promotion, never showed up to anything important to me, but now you want me to help you? We're family," he said weakly. Family shows up. Family supports each other. Family doesn't steal wedding money and call it an investment. I took a breath. "You're my brother, Marcus, and I don't hate you. But I don't owe you anything either. I'm done setting myself on fire to keep you warm." James appeared at my elbow, reading the situation immediately. Elena, he said softly. They're about to cut the cake. Your grandmother, he nodded toward Richard's mother, wants to make a toast first. We left Marcus standing there. As we walked away, I heard my mother approach him, asking what happened. I didn't look back. Richard's mother stood with champagne raised. She talked about true love, about finding your person, about how the best marriages are partnerships where both people lift each other up. She looked right at me and said, Elena, you've brought light back into my grandson's eyes. Welcome to our family, darling girl. The dancing lasted until midnight. James and I had our first dance to a jazz version of The Way You Look Tonight. His father danced with me and whispered, You're the daughter I always wanted. His mother danced with James and cried happy tears. My parents barely danced. They stood by their table looking uncomfortable, out of place. My mother kept checking her phone. My father nursed the same glass of wine all night. Marcus left early, claiming he had a business call in the morning. At the end of the night, after the last guest had left and the catering staff was cleaning up, James and I stood on the barn's balcony overlooking the vines. The moon was full. The air smelled like jasmine and roses. No regrets? He asked, pulling me close. None. Best decision I ever made. Marrying me or standing up to your family? Both. We spent our wedding night in the estate's honeymoon cottage, a private guest house surrounded by lavender fields. In the morning, Catherine brought us breakfast and the review from the society pages. Someone had leaked photos, and the wedding was already being called one of the most elegant events of the season. My phone started ringing around 10. My mother, calling over and over. I finally answered on the 7th call. Elena, did you see the article? You're in the Chronicle's society section. Everyone's talking about it. Your cousin just texted me, asking why we weren't in the photos. We were there, I said calmly. You arrived late to the rehearsal dinner and left the reception early. There weren't many photo opportunities. Well, we didn't know it was going to be such a big deal. If you'd told us... If I'd told you what? That my wedding mattered? That I deserved your support? I did tell you, Mom. You just didn't listen. There was a long pause. Your father wants to know if we can come back to the estate this weekend. For brunch or something. To take proper family photos. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, we're leaving for our honeymoon in 2 hours. And when we get back, James and I will be moving into our new house. We won't be available for family photos. You bought a house? She sounded hurt that she didn't know. We did. In Napa, near the estate. I'm transferring to the hospital here. James is opening his own architecture firm with an office in his father's winery. We're staying. Another long pause. So you're just leaving? Moving away from your family? I'm moving toward the family that chooses me, I said. There's a difference. After I hung up, I blocked my parents' numbers. Then my brothers. Then the extended family members who'd already started texting, asking for favors, for connections, for a piece of what they thought I now had access to. James found me on the cottage's porch, staring at my phone. You okay? He asked. I am. I really am. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He sat beside me, taking my hand. You know what Richard told me last night? He said he's never seen me happier. That before you, I was just going through the motions. You woke something up in me, Elena. You made me want to build a life worth living. I leaned my head on his shoulder. We did that for each other. We flew to Italy for 2 weeks. When we returned, Catherine and Richard threw us a welcome home party at the estate. They'd prepared the guest house for us to stay in while our house was being built on a plot of land overlooking the southern vines. My mother tried calling from a different number. I didn't answer. Marcus sent an email asking if he could list James's father as a reference for an investor meeting. I marked it as spam. 6 months later, I heard through a cousin that Marcus's company had shut down. Another failure. My parents had lost the entire investment, plus another $20,000 they'd put in to try to save it. They'd also had to take out a second mortgage on their house. I felt sorry for them, but only a little. They'd made their choice. They'd shown me exactly where I stood. A year after my wedding, James and I hosted Thanksgiving at our new house. We invited his parents, his grandmother, Emma and her fiancé, and a few close friends from the hospital where I now worked. It was warm, loving, full of laughter. My mother sent a card. We miss you, it said. We made a mistake. Can we talk? I put the card in a drawer and didn't respond. Because here's what I learned. You can't force people to value you. You can't make someone prioritize you when they've decided you're not worth it. But you can choose to build a life with people who see your worth without you having to prove it. You can choose to let go of the people who hurt you, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. You can choose yourself. And sometimes the best revenge isn't showing them what they lost. It's building something so beautiful with the people who chose you that you forget to care what the ones who didn't think at all. 2 years later, Catherine pulled me aside at Easter dinner. "Elena, honey, there's something I want to give you." She handed me a small leather box. Inside was a key. "What's this?" I asked. "Richard and I have been talking," she said. "We're getting older. We want to start transitioning the estate to the next generation. James will take over the winery operations, and Emma will handle the legal and business side. But we want you to manage the events program. You have an eye for detail, a gift for making people feel welcome. The estate needs that." I stared at the key. "This is for your new office. In the main house, you'll work with Simone, of course, but ultimately the events will be your domain. What do you think?" I thought about the girl I'd been 2 years ago, crying in her car because her family didn't think she mattered. I thought about how far I'd come, how much I'd grown, how I'd found my place. I think I'd be honored. That night, I posted on social media for the first time in months. Just a photo of James and me at the estate, sunset behind us, glasses of wine in our hands. The caption read, "Grateful for the family we choose and the life we've built together." My mother commented within minutes, "So beautiful. We're so proud of you." I deleted the comment and went back to dinner with the people who'd earned the right to celebrate with me. Because in the end, that's what matters. Not the wedding, not the money, not the revenge. What matters is waking up every day with people who see you, value you, choose you. What matters is building something real with people who show up. I found my people. I built my life. And I learned that sometimes, the best way to win is simply to stop playing their game altogether.